What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're talking about an older comedy film that I've never seen until now, but I've wanted to check out for a while, and that is The Blues Brothers. Now, The Blues Brothers is a film based on a Saturday Night Live skit that existed before I was born, during a time when SNL was very different than what you would see today. That can either be a good thing or bad, but according to Ranker.com, this is the #1 best film about music, as well as the best SNL film overall. It's on 35 other lists, but those are the ones that stood out to me. Time to cover the entire gamut of this film, and let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, gamut. The complete range or scope of something, aka the gamut of my life, is movies every day, air day. The Blues Brothers takes two brothers, Joliet, Jake, and Elwood Blues, on a mission from God to get the band back together again, which in turn will earn them enough money to keep the orphanage that raised them from closing down. The only problem is everybody from the cops to the white supremacist Nazis to the random Carrie Fisher cameos are trying to stop them. I'll tell you my overall thoughts, and I'll kind of break down why I feel that way about this movie. In general, I think this film is decent. I had a good, fun time with it, but I guarantee I didn't have as much of a good time as the people in 1980 did, because this is a film that heavily relies on pop culture references of its time, and I didn't catch them all. I caught a couple of them, like when Ray Charles plays a character, and as does Aretha Franklin, but there's also a ton of other cameos that I didn't catch, because this film is using 4-decade-old pop culture references, and ancient celebrities make cameos that, if you catch it, it's freaking great. If you don't, you won't understand what the big deal is. So it really depends on who you are when you see this movie. I think a mass majority of modern audiences won't understand most of the references made in this film. That being said, you can still enjoy the film, its story, and its comedy, which is often as ridiculous as an episode of Looney Tunes. More specifically, Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Carrie Fisher's role specifically comes down to random moments in the movie where she tracks down the Blues Brothers and tries to kill them in some kind of grand gesture. The first time you see her, she's staking out their home, and when they show up, she busts out a multi-missile launcher that shoots like 4 or 5 missiles back to back at them. And just like the Roadrunner, the guys escape unscathed every single time. This is both an example of a celebrity reference, because it's Carrie Fisher, and a utilization of the humor. If you don't connect with one, you'll likely connect to the other. And that's the one thing this film does often very, very well. It often creates a backup plan for people that don't connect well with the pop culture references. It works best if you can connect with everything, but even if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Like I said though, this is a very fun movie. Fun in its casting of the Blues Brothers themselves, who are very good at portraying these characters, as they really have good friendship chemistry and musical chemistry. It's fun in the music that just makes you want to tap your feet, and it's fun in the slapstick style of humor. I can't tell you right off the bat if I think it's the best SNL film out there, but I can at least say that I understand if you think it is. One thing that I was really worried about with this film before I saw it was the runtime. It's 2.5 hours long. That's how long the movie is, and no comedy film should be 2.5 hours long. That just made zero sense to me. And when I watched it, God is my witness, I didn't feel the runtime at all. Not even a little bit. Just because of how fun the movie is. That probably had to do with a mixture of the comedy itself, the music, the cameos, the action, etc. Because the movie is always moving. There's never a dull moment, so the audience is often engaged into what's happening. Heck, there's even a car chase scene in this movie that I think is one of the best car chase sequences of any given film, just from a practical approach, which was an honest shock to me when I saw it. I honestly don't have a lot of negatives to talk about with this film, other than to say it's a product of its time, and it has references 40 years old, which a lot of people won't be able to pick up on, and that can really affect your experience as a whole. There's also not a huge amount of story depth or heart in the film. I mean, one can argue that blues music on its own is the heart, but this mostly operates as a slapstick comedy above all else, and those often don't have heart, and the same applies here. It's just fun to be fun. I also wouldn't buy the movie or want to own it, nor do I feel an impulse to recommend it to others. It was a good time, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think others will connect with it as much as they could have connected with it years and years ago. My unbiased score and biased score both agree that this film is solid regardless of the pop culture references, but nothing perfect. It's a product of its time, and both those scores are 74%. Obviously, those two scores average out to a final score of 74%, 74 out of 100 possible stars, granting the Blues Brothers with a letter grade of C. It's pretty good in general, and I wish I saw it when I was younger, back when I was exploring different types of music genres and artists of the past. It would have been more effective to me at that point. Right now, it's just fine. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on it, though. Is this the best film SNL ever released? And I hear there's a sequel. If you know anything about that sequel, let me know if it's worth the watch. As for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button because there's more like it coming out. Hit the thumbs up button because that always helps out my channel. And don't forget about the little bell icon because that'll help notify you when I come out with my next review. Until the next time, peace out!